with, "I feel like a lot of people are seen as being backwards." People with hate signs came to his shows to protest. There are still health problems after 25 years. The man who had everything is now 67 years old and seeing it all go away. Vince Gill was born in Norman, Oklahoma, on April 12, 1957. He grew up in a home where music and the law mixed in the weirdest way. Besides being a judge, his dad could play the banjo, guitar, and harp, like an old pro at bluegrass. Judge Gill would sometimes come home from court and play music with his wife, Jareen, who also played the harp, until late at night. Vince used to lie in bed and listen to the music play in the hallway. People in the area still talk about the summer nights when guitars and harmonicas played in the streets. Vince's soul was deeply affected by this strange mix of deep sadness in court and happiness while picking corn on the porch. But it wasn't easy to grow up. Vince was born with his eyes not lined up. It wasn't just a small problem. It took 2 painful surgeries to fix. His left eye still moved when he was tired or angry after that. He later said that he didn't just start wearing glasses to see better. He did it to hide the eye that hurt him. As a child, his classmates made fun of him so much that he stopped interacting with anyone. Not at all. He stayed at home and played his guitar all day. He wasn't hiding from the world. He was making a new one. Vince was 10 years old when a terrible thing happened. Bob, his half-brother, was in a terrible car accident on a wet highway outside of Oklahoma City. Bob had brain damage so bad that he couldn't even remember people's names. He used to be a smart student and a potential athlete. Bob had full-time care needs for over 25 years. Judge Gill had to do more work as a lawyer to pay for everything. Vince saw his parents' marriage fall apart because of the stress. Bob finally passed away in 1993 from a heart attack that was caused by his injuries. Vince felt that pain all the time. He said those times taught him what it meant to really lose something years later. His songs, the kind that make people cry quietly in their cars, were filled with pain. When Vince was 5 years old, he went to visit his grandma and picked up her old acoustic guitar. He then began to try to play Old Chapter. He learned how to play the chords and start singing in 30 minutes without having taken a single lesson. His grandmother was shocked. She called Vince's parents and told them she had seen something very unusual. When Vince turned 10, his family saved up enough money to buy him a Gibson ES 335 and play it. It was worth about $800 in 1967. Which is about $6,500 now. It wasn't just a present either. That's what it said. Vince wasn't just a kid who liked cars. He played music. Music was his way of getting away. Vince didn't act out when things at home got tough. He moved into his guitar and disappeared. Every day, he played for 6 to 8 hours, mostly by himself in the basement. Family and friends say they heard sad, emotional music resonating through the walls. Afterwards, Vince's music teacher wrote that the way he played had a deep, sad sound that was way beyond his years. He didn't say anything about pain. He turned it into a tune. Vince formed Mountain Smoke, a bluegrass band, when he was in high school. Strange things happened on March 4, 1976. They came out before Kiss. Yes, Kiss, the rock monsters who wear makeup. People at the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds didn't know what to think of the country tunes played by a group of kids. They were after fire and leather. They got fiddles and banjos instead. People in the crowd booed and threw cups and shoes at the speaker. Vince lost it. He snubbed the crowd, mooned them, and walked off stage. It was real, upsetting, and something I will never forget. The band broke up after all that chaos. Vince didn't give up, though. He went to Kentucky and became a part of Bluegrass Alliance. He was in a band called Boone Creek by 1977. I played with Ricky Skaggs when he was young. They made the bluegrass scene shine. The group didn't last long, but their style, which mixed old-school bluegrass with a modern edge, helped make a new sound. Someone really loves that band's one song, which they made in 1977. Some people still talk about it as if it were a treasure map. In the fall of that same year, Vince packed up again. this time going west. His journey began in Los Angeles, where he joined Sundance, a band led by the legendary fiddler Byron Berline. Berline wasn't joking. That was when he played with Bill Monroe and the Flying Burrito Brothers. He was looking for beauty. Vince quickly learned. They played at one of LA's most famous clubs, the Palomino, and famous people like Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt were there. Less than a year after being booed off the stage, Vince was playing with artists who had won Grammys. It takes a lot of guts to bounce back like that. In September 1978, Pure Prairie League was being broken up. Lisa Gosthorne, their lead singer, had just left to start a new band with his brother. The group, which no longer had any founding members, was fighting hard to stay alive. They began having tryouts, hoped to find someone who can keep the music going. At that point, a young bluegrass singer named Vince Gill came back into their lives. In 1976, 2 years before, Gill played in Oklahoma City with his band Mountain Smoke before Pure Prairie League. They noticed him right away. Even though he was only 19, his skills were clear. He turned down their offer of a spot back then. He was still really into bluegrass. He played with Byron Berlin and Sundance in Los Angeles in 1978. He played with Pure Prairie League again one night. They gave him the job offer within hours. He said yes this time. The sound guy for the band, Jeff Riederfer, remembers it well. We saw him play in 1976, but he was now all about bluegrass. We knew he was the one when he came back in 1978. Vince Gill took over as lead singer. He did more than just sing. He played the fiddle, guitar, banjo, and anything else with strings. He was in more of the public eye than ever before at age 21. It was 1979, and the band was making their next album, Can't Hold Back, at Criteria Studios in Miami. Even though Gill is a full-time member, this is their first record as a group. Everything changed when he was there. The smooth and emotional sound of his speech added something. He also started writing songs with a mix of country and pop sounds. Michael Riley, who has been in the band for a long time, said it best. He was a nice change. The record wasn't a big hit, but it brought the band back to life. For Vince, it was the start of something much bigger. Then 1980 came along. That's when everything went off. The band put out Firin' Up, which had their biggest hit to date, Let Me Love You Tonight. The band was stuck because they didn't have a record company, and their sales were bad. In the beginning of 1982, Vince Gill and bassist Jeff Wilson got out. Gill was already well known as a solo singer when he signed with RCA Records. In his place, Pure Prairie League brought in Gary Burr, but the magic was gone. The speed was lost. Vince's time with the band was over, but he was already on his own journey. During this time, something else happened that would change his life for good. As Vince worked to build his music business in California, he met Janice Oliver. She was in the country duo, Sweethearts of the Rodeo. They met through the music scene and became friends right away, but things quickly turned serious. They got married in 1980. On May 5, 1982, 2 years after that, their daughter Jennifer Jareen Gill was born. Vince Gill thought he was about to do something big in 1982. People were interested in his song, Let Me Love You Tonight, and he was sure that his solo career was about to take off. Roger Crowell asked Gill to join his band, the Cherry Bombs, but Gill turned him down. He planned to do it by himself, but people in the music business can be mean. His progress slowed down as the year went on. His songs didn't do well on the charts. Gigs stopped happening. His doubts grew. Gill was having a hard time by the end of the year. He called Crowell back early in 1983 and said yes to the offer. His choice to join the Cherry Bombs was the best one he could have made. Don't think this was just any backup band. A lot of great singers were in that group, like Tony Brown and Emery Gordy, Jr., whose names would later shape the sound of country music. The band played close to 200 shows a year and was always on the road. It was hard work that taught me a lot. Gill learned how to play the guitar better, became more confident on stage, and made links that would help him for the rest of his life. He learned how to make a living in the business, not by trying to get famous, but by waiting for the right time. Vince did something brave that same year. He packed up his life in Los Angeles and went to Nashville with his wife, Janice, and their young daughter, Jennifer. It wasn't exciting. It was hard to get money. They rented a small house, and Vince worked any job he could find. Roseanne Cash, who was married to Crowell at the time, hired him to play guitar for one of her jobs. In 1983, that trip turned into his classroom. Cash's band was tight, well-tuned, and tough. Vince had to become an adult quickly, at home and on stage. It wasn't easy to be a dad, have practices late at night, and not know when I would get paid. But the months he spent in Nashville made him stronger, smarter, and more focused. At the same time, Tony Brown, who used to play with him in the Cherry Bombs, was moving up in Nashville. Brown was in charge of A&R at RCA Records by 1984. Vince wasn't lost to him. He thought Gill had something special, so he worked hard behind the scenes to get it. Brown did everything he could to get Vince's tracks played by RCA's Joe Galante. His work paid off. Gill got a solo deal with RCA in the beginning of 1984. It wasn't just about skill. It was about having faith. Brown put himself out there to show that he knew Gill could do it. Vince didn't miss the chance. He put out his first solo album in February 1984. It was a 6-song EP called Turn Me Loose. 3 of the songs got into the top 40. The song Victim of Life's Circumstances got to number 34. It wasn't a huge hit, but it was interesting enough to notice. Gill worked with great studio musicians for long hours at Nashville's Woodland Studios. He didn't want extra tracks. He cared about every second. That devotion was clear. The EP showed that Gill wasn't just another country singer with an upbeat voice. He was a real artist who was ready for bigger settings. Things got even better that same year. Gill was named the Best New Male Singer by the Academy of Country Music on April 10, 1984. For a moment, it looked like everything was finally going to work out. It was his first big award. But fame didn't happen right away. His next record, The Things That Matter, came out in 1985. It was good, but it wasn't strong enough. Not a single of his made it into the top 10 between 1984 and 1988. Gill kept working hard and getting better, but the attention was always just out of reach. Still, that ACM award helped me remember. He had the voice, the skills, and the attention of the business. When 1989 came around, Vince Gill was 32 years old and very close to being forgotten. RCA didn't know what to do with him because his songs weren't selling well, but Tony Brown wasn't.